G'day and welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute, joined today by Algared. How you doing, buddy?
I'm alive. That's always a good thing.
I'm kicking. All right, let's kick straight off into it. I believe this one, Algared, is about animals and stuff, or
Claws does seem to suggest that, yes.
non-smart. What do you call it if it's a non-playable character? I guess it's technically a non-playable character, but it's an animal. Yeah, non-playable creature. Haha, did it.
MVP.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right, let's kick it off then.
There are lots of ways to bring life to the worlds of Star Citizen, whether that's the people that inhabit them, the structures they build, or the coffee cups and food wrapper decor scattered across their desk. But perhaps nothing quite as much as nature's inhabitants. Now, animals, creatures, fauna, whatever you call them, have been one of the long unfulfilled promises of the persistent universe since planets were first introduced in Alpha 3.0. And 0.23 patches later, they've made their much anticipated debut with the first of a new herd of offerings that will continue in subsequent releases. So let's go now to just some of the team members responsible for their creation and get just a small glimpse into what went into their creation.
So did you notice he mentioned the herd?
Yeah. I was kind of distracted. I'm going to be completely honest with you. The nameplate on his desk is driving me nuts because the text is off center. I'm sorry, but like it's the weirdest thing. Because I do a lot of thumbnails for the show, obviously, and it's driving me batshit.
And you get frustrated if there's even a pixel out of place.
Yeah, like Algared would say,
no one's going to notice.
Yeah.
I notice.
Yeah. Algared knows that I know, but yeah, that's just a little weird to me. It's that's a machine. How the hell did they stuff that up? But
right at the end there, he said a herd of offerings, and that to me kind of hopefully means he's going to talk about, or we're going to see not only the creatures they've mentioned, but also the space cow, which has been mentioned in the Mumma reports. The other thing I'll mention, you mentioned the non-playable critters.
Yeah.
Being NPCs.
Yeah.
I wonder if CIG will go down the line at one point and do what Lord of the Rings did. You can actually, on some weird missions, lay a chicken and try and get from A to B without being killed by the other critters. Just one of those fun, weird things that people could do.
I went to somewhere else when you said that, riding them, like mounts and stuff. Like, can you do, so, like, we know vehicles are a thing, but, like, we've got high and low tech, and low tech has to be able to ride creatures, surely. Using them for farming and stuff, like, it sounds like a no-brainer.
I would imagine that's something that comes in, yeah. But I was just thinking about non-playable aspect, and
we are probably getting way down the road. Let's see what they show us.
Absolutely, but even the fact that, just on other games that are old now, there's been the situation where, yes, you play a chicken and take it from point A to point B, and if you got there, you got this, I think a title. Yeah. That was it. Just a title you could label yourself in game, and that was it. But yeah.
All right.
Anyway.
Creatures are just going to offer a whole different dimension to the gameplay.
They bring a sense of life to a world, gives an environment a sense of that it's a lived-in space.
There's a lot going on the planets, but it can feel at times like there's not a huge amount going on. But with the introduction of creatures, that all changes. We have now the ability to create life wherever you look.
It just takes the game to another level of breathtaking. It adds believability to the experience that I don't think any feature so far has come to the level of adding immersion that Fauna has.
I struggled to hear there. The sound was so ongoing, Algared. The growls and stuff.
Yeah, I could imagine if you're out in the wilds and you're, or even at an outpost, one of those old abandoned outposts,
Mm.
and you start hearing, and you're hearing the animal sounds, not only have you got the worry now of NPC characters who are going to be shooting at you, there's also the possibility you could stumble into a hive of or a nest of or a den of critters who are going to attack you. So you got all these other aspects that just change the nature of a game.
I just heard your alarm go off in the background.
Yes, I know. I'm trying to get to it.
Go turn it off real quick. I'll wait for you.
If I get to that button undone here.
Yeah. All right, I'll click play then.
There you go.
In Alpha 323, we're adding 2 new creatures. One is the Marok,
Turbo Pelican.
and one is the Copion.
Okay.
When you're kind of exploring these planets,
It actually reminds me of the Tasmanian tiger, this one.
It does remind me a little of a Tasmanian tiger.
Yeah.
we are introducing a whole range of different creatures going forward into the future.
Well, you want to start off simple, right? You look at it, you're like, oh, cool, should we work on these big creatures straight away? Or, should we, ground down, make sure the pipeline works, make sure the basics work? What's more simple than, a dog, cat, and a bird? And ultimately, the birds basically prove out these features that they can be done and they are doable. Let's start with the Marok bird. So this is a fairly simple creature, and you'll see them flying around in flux. And it's really nice when you're just in your ship looking out the window and you see a bunch of birds and life on the surfaces where you wouldn't before.
I think the Marok as a bird will add a sense of scale to the world. Like it helps a lot to see a flock of birds and add scale to anything that's bigger in the distance. I think this is going to help a lot to that part.
If you're like walking along the planetary surface and you hear a core in the distance, you're like, oh, there's Marok, so we can go find them, we can go see them. With the creature designs, we don't.
I think for me, Algared, it's going to make the worlds feel more alien, especially when they're, not the usual type of birds and stuff we're used to.
I also wonder whether we'll get bird strikes. Like certain vehicles would be more susceptible to being damaged by a bird strike.
Yeah, like a Connie versus one of the others.
A Connie's fans, gets a bird strike in the rotor, versus just a jet.
Yeah, interesting.
Or a cluster.
All right.
want to make anything that you look at and you go, oh, that's a pigeon, because we're a sci-fi game. We want to make it a bit cooler and a bit weird, and we don't want to spoil too much about where they are, who they are, what they're doing, and things like that when it comes to creatures, because we basically want the players to find them. And we don't want to say, hey, they're on these specific locations, on these specific things, because they could turn up in areas that you wouldn't expect.
For the Marok, we wanted a colorful variety of birds that we could use to fill the planets. The creatures have different skin depending on the biomes they're in, so some are going to be more colorful, some a little less colorful. They're inspired by real-life animals to some extent.
They have these big gulped chins. They've got these nice flappy wingspans, but they're also a bit hairless as well.
We kind of look at the reference of featherless birds because for the first batch of creature we could not use a lot of feathers and fur, so we went to a more skin type of creatures.
Those cats that don't have any hair, they look a bit like that, but in more of a bird form. It's very odd. The Copion is essentially a hybrid between a dog and a cat. It's got 4 eyes. It's a nice, chill, social behavior, which you can see, you see them howling, or you hear them howling, or you see them walking around and kind of, scratching themselves and licking themselves and things like that.
The Copion has a variety of colors. There's one that is more savanna-like. There's one that's more forest-like, so it can blend into the environment a bit better. There's an Arctic one that has kind of the pattern of a snow.
Yeah, I was about to say they do the different patterns like cats are good.
Snow leopards and other stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting critter.
All right.
A leopard.
And then once you're in combat, they're faster than the player sprinting, and they're usually in packs of like 10 to 14. Visually, they're a nice kind of sleek, slender look. When you think of dogs, you think of them more like worker dogs. When somebody asks us, you know, how big is this creature, we reference a German Shepherd, for example.
The Copion was designed to have a hostile look, so it has horns, it has big scales on the back.
Overall, we wanted something that you look at and you go, oh yeah, we know that's a predator. And obviously, you know, you can tell things are predators by the way their eyes are shaped and how they move, how their bone structure is, how they're set up visually. You can look at that and your brain from evolution basically goes, oh, that is a predator and it's gonna hurt me.
So the Marok bird is what we call a boid.
A boid on a general level, you have to imagine it's like a lot more stupid version of an actor, right? It's way less resource intensive, its behaviors are far more simple, and it's a lot easier to basically put in without performance costs.
Boids is a system that was developed a while back, but has been used to great effect in lots of films and games. It's based on 3 simple rules that allow some very complex behaviors of what you might call flocking. The 3 rules are that they maintain separation, so they don't get too close to each other. They remain aligned with each other, so they'll follow other members of the pack that go in the same direction. And cohesion are the 3 rules in boids that allow this flocking behavior to be generated.
So they're a group of birds essentially stay together in a single area, and you know, they fly up, they fly down. They're intentionally made to be very simple and kind of what you'd expect from a bird, especially if you're hunting them as well, because we don't want individual birds flying all around the planet and things like that, because we want to kind of keep them nicely clustered together in an area where you go, okay, cool, this is where the birds are.
So the Copion is not a boid, it's a fully fledged NPC character.
When you look at the Copion, that's what we call an actor, right? And that essentially has the more costly associations, like being able to use like nav meshes, being able to use behavior trees, and because Copions have to make decisions, but Maroks don't.
So Copion is an NPC creature?
Yes.
Does it T-pose on chairs?
Well, firstly, they're not going to be on chairs in the first place, unless you lure one into your spaceship and somehow magically put them on a chair. No, they're not going to T-pose on chairs, sadly.
So you're going on the record that Copion's never going to jump on a chair?
No, I'm not going to say they're not going to jump on a chair.
Now,
Oh, hang on.
The animator's tab.
Yeah, go ahead.
there's 2 things there. One, the fact that the Marok birds are boids. That actually answers a lot of those questions we were raising in the past about herd animals and the aspect of farming.
Yep.
Low intensity, having one that follows everything else.
My question would be when you dial that up though, like how many can you have in a herd mentality? But again, we'll have to wait and see.
But as you were saying that, I was hearing the discussion we had. You know, I was almost literally hearing you as we were had been talking about, you know, herd animals and them following around and that. It's interesting that the Copion. I like. I cannot get over the fact that they've called this critter a copium.
Yeah, I think it's deliberate. I think it's a tip of the hat.
I think it's absolute gold.
Yeah.
It's
and it's the type of thing that'll sit there for. It's the type of thing that'll sit there for years, but we'll kind of always know. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's a hopium cat.
Yeah. Or maybe no, they probably do another creature and call it hopium or something like that. So kind of fun.
But I'm just chuckling away at that. I don't know how many other people will, but I certainly am.
Yeah, I'm wondering if what type of things they can run in the background too. Like, can they literally lower those boids down to a single entity on the simulation, and they just have a number of them, and it's like one entity that moves, and they just follow that one entity. Like that might be the way they've done it, but
Well, I got the impression, and what he was just saying at the end there, that they don't want the boids flying around solo. So
yeah. Well, again, I think they're
hunting them.
I think they might be about to tell us in the rest of this video how they did it. So,
but the interesting one is also that this cat, the Copium, is actually a player character. Like it's an NPC. It's full on. It has the same characteristics that the NPCs will have. So it'll have the fight.
Well, technically, this falls under the classification. Well, I guess I could get debated here, but it's unlike a Tasmanian tiger, it's not a marsupial. It's more like a mammal because of the way it walks and stuff. But yeah, I'm sure there's some scientists out there going, "You're wrong." But from me, from what I remember, because the Tasmanian tiger actually did this, and if you saw in the thing, they were doing this. So
they were. The last one was, I think, in the 1920s. So
1936 is when it was.
1936. So that's enough.
Yeah.
I can see that. Just the tail looks very Tasmanian tigerish. The body shape.
I do wonder if it was it did have fur though. So I don't know.
But I also like the idea of this because this enables you to eventually go to the Algared Stalker, because the Algared Stalker would be one that would be, I think, an NPC type character.
Exactly.
As opposed to a void.
Yeah.
Whereas rats and cattle, I'd expect them to be voids. But yeah.
And just as a side note, they did mention fur coming up in the monthly report, so you can see as they mentioned All right.
Task with the creatures is to breathe life into these entities, because these entities basically are just points in space that are moving around. The Marok, when it's kind of flying across the sky, as far as the game's concerned, it's just a point in space just moving across the sky. But the animators actually create that illusion of life. The first step in the process is we have a look at the design doc. We basically get an idea and the feel for what the designers are after for the creature. We then try and kind of link that to, because these are alien creatures, we kind of link that back to what is it like that's already.
I just had a thought, wouldn't it be really cool if they had the Copium kind of like stalking and hunting these guys? That would have been cool, but whatever.
I was even just thinking, like, the boy, the Marok bird and the Copium, they could have an impact on things like races in the game. If you've got a boy, the Copium, the bird just suddenly flying across the racetrack, that's an added.
They attack you, everything.
You've got to avoid. A random obstacle you've got to avoid. So,
I'm sure that'll come up, no doubt.
Yeah.
All right.
Exists on Earth, and for the Marok it was things like a pelican, that kind of creature. So we then gathered the reference of pelicans doing all the things that we want the Marok to do. With that, we will then try and kind of breathe that life, that essence of that creature into the Marok. So we went through many different iterations of like the poses that this Copion should be in. Very small details can kind of tell a whole different story about the Copion. In one case, we were creating the aggressive idle pose. We had a pose that we thought was kind of really aggressive looking, kind of down low, and it was kind of ready to kind of pounce at you. But one of the devs said, like, this kind of feels like it's playing with me. It kind of feels like he's kind of should be wagging his tail. So we just kind of changed a few very subtle things, and all of a sudden, like, the whole feeling of that pose changes. So there's many different kind of decisions that we have to make to achieve that final result that we want, that result of the Copion being this aggressive thing that's out for your blood.
One of the things we've been doing with Copions is trying to get them to attack in packs, and we do this by giving them some special formation code that brings them together and makes them seem really cohesive in a different way from the voids.
You want to engage these things from distances, as they are faster than the player when they are sprinting. So these will essentially attack you and circle you in packs. Think a bit more behavior akin to wolves.
If you come across a Copion outside in the wild, the first thing you're probably going to do is back up really quickly as they all come charging at you. And that can be really quite hazardous if you don't look where you're going and fall down a ravine or something.
They've got two attacks, which is this really scary pounce attack, and then they've got a more short-ranged attack.
So when the creature is kind of lunging towards you, one of the versions of the animation we had was where it kind of leapt out towards you, and it had all of its claws out, back feet, front feet, its jaws were open, just to make it look as kind of aggressive.
So the one thing I'm noticing from the animation point of view is, like pack animals, though, it's not flanking. You remember Jurassic Park with the raptor, Clever Girl?
Oh, yeah.
It's not doing that. It's just they're all coming in do singling attacks. So I'm hoping this is tier 0 type of thing.
And pack animals often will go, when they flank, they'll often try and hamstring or...
Yep. They'll go for different parts of your body, like your leg or your arm. Yeah, exactly.
And their goal is to pull you down, not
And I keep seeing them as space hyenas now. I can't unsee that. So it's kind of like if someone's crossed like a African cat, so like a leopard and or a tiger and a hyena. That's what I keep seeing now. I don't know if you can unsee that, but yeah, that's what I keep seeing.
No, I think it's just because they're a pack animal, and that's generally how you see hyenas, and but yeah.
Okay.
Aggressive and as dangerous as possible, but it turns out that kind of made it look less dangerous because it was showing its belly. So we basically adjusted the back end of the Copion, brought its paws in slightly, and again, that changes the entire kind of feel. When the silhouette of this thing coming towards you is just a pair of jaws opening up, ready to kind of clamp down on you, and it makes it look a lot more aggressive.
And they hurt quite a lot. The average hit will take a quarter of your health off, so you've got to kill these things before they come close to you, which is a problem when you're in caves.
Also,
I think it would shotguns would be really good for dealing with these all of a sudden too.
I would have thought being in caves, you've got it's a little easier because it's a bit harder for them to get around you. Not if they were trying to flank you, but since they don't flank you, it doesn't really matter. But 4 hits and you're dead.
Yeah. Again, maybe that's why they don't flank you, because they do more damage. But yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Because when you're in caves, it's a close quarters environment, and the Copions have the upper hand.
So you'll come across a Copion in a cave, and they'll probably be doing some really cool little idle animation, like scratching themselves or shaking themselves with fleas. And if you surprise them for the first time and they're on their own, they'll probably get a bit scared and run away and join the other Copions. If you follow them, then that's when you'll probably get into trouble, because a pack of 3 or 4 or more Copions attacking at the same time could be really quite deadly.
So with the Marok, it was a very iterative process, and there was a lot of back and forth. I started off with experimenting with morphing, where you can take one source and morph it with another one. And we did a lot of experimentation with using different types of birds, like eagles and hawks and owls, and morphing it with non-animal source, more like textural, squeaky, squawky stuff. So we started off quite grounded and taking sounds that sounded quite a lot like ravens and crows, but we're going more towards a little bit more like dinosaur-esque and a bit more screechy and more alien. So yes, trying to find that balance. The Copion, we wanted to make sure that it has a presence in the world. You don't just hear it when it's attacking you. You can hear it snuffling around and grunting when you're sneaking up on it. They're howling, they're communicating with each other. We just wanted it to add life and presence to the world. So the Copion is a very mean-looking predator, and we wanted it to sound just as mean as it looks. So we started off with a mix of sources from lions and tigers and all sorts of predatory mammals, and mixing it in with dogs and things like seals, sea lions, and trying to bring in an alien element as well with some non-literal sounds. I've got a recording of a wet balloon squeaking that I mix in at certain points just to give it a little bit of alien flavor. So one of our sound designers, Chris, has this beautiful Cocker Spaniel that he recorded loads of sounds of at his house, and we used a little bit of that sprinkled in just to give it that dog characteristic.
Are you saying that you find sea lions and wet balloons terrifying?
It can be if you if you put them in the right order. And so the sounds of fear are sea lions, wet balloons, and Cocker Spaniels.
I always remember the stormtroopers from Star Wars Algared, the shots, they're actually cutting a piano, not piano wires, guitar strings.
Yeah.
And they're just morphed. Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to add to that, or?
No.
All right.
No.
We know some of you don't just want to pet the bird.
Yeah.
Watch the bird, look at the bird, enjoy the bird, you know, be one with the bird. Some of you want to murder the bird.
Yeah, so I've seen some people going up to the birds and punching them, which is definitely a way to interact with wildlife. And if you do that, you will find a pearl in their, I think it's in the base of their mouth, and essentially it's made of like congealed innards and looks incredibly gross. So if you manage to kill the Copions, you'll see the horn on them, and you can loot that, and it's basically a valuable commodity of which you can sell on.
It's going to be exciting for the players to hunt out those creatures and find them in different environments, whether they'll be in the middle of the trees or hiding in caves. There's a bit of a challenge there, but there's also that feeling of nature and the wild that you're going to get kind of peering on creatures performing these kind of behaviors as though they're not being watched by humans before.
But the nice thing about this is it kind of leads into a wider gameplay loop that we're looking at. We talked about crafting quite a lot, and this is an example of how crafting gameplay will come into it. It's probably the first step as we're looking at more creatures and more variants and things like that. But obviously we'll get in that further detail as we go on. The creature/fauna in general, obviously we've previously experimented, we've previously played with things, as you'll have seen, but now we're in the active development of it. So we have a really nice kind of idea of what we want for 1.0 and all the creatures we want for that, and looking at how we can make the creatures in the future fit in the Star Citizen universe. So we've always been tinkering, we've always been playing, but now we have a pipeline that technology is working in, and we've basically proven it out now. So the future of creatures is a lot more easier and convenient to make than some of the more previous challenges.
I think it's very exciting for us and the character team to tackle the creatures. It's something that the whole team is excited about. We are very proud of the work that we do.
So animating.
I think that means we're going to see a lot more creatures at CitizenCon, Algared.
I think that's possibly that is certainly a possibility. The other thing I was thinking in terms of the crafting, like when I was talking about the products you could get, certainly with the bird, my first thought was, why can't we harvest some for food?
Yeah, I think that'll come down the line.
Yeah,
I was thinking exactly the same
gave the
thing.
impression that'll become later, but I could see copium steaks being served at your $8.90 job restaurant or your
Or maybe refine it down into a gas form that you can inhale.
Your marek, your roast marek, with the different types of the vegetation and stuff. So as those things come in, you could almost see there's a game loop there for stuff that supports the luxury gameplay and chefs and cooks and.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think it's I think they've just given us one thing initially to get into the economy or give a reason for, but I think you're absolutely right.
Maybe I'm taking a bit too much copium,
but we'll see.
No pun there, I know.
A creature isn't an easy thing at all. So obviously for the creatures we couldn't mocap. So hand keying the creatures, it can be difficult to raise the quality up to the level that the rest of the universe is at. But I think as a team, I think we've really managed to actually achieve that level of quality that we're aiming for. I think that the team's done a great job.
Creatures definitely bring life to the different planet environments that we have, allow us to have a different range of kind of gameplay situations where you've got characters attacking you in different ways and allowing us to show a more characterful range of behaviors, perhaps.
Creatures, it's not just a static, prop. It's something that is alive and breathing, and you can react to it, and it will react to you, and it just gives a bit of gameplay for the player to engage in.
And as we go on, the previous creatures that you've seen, for example, the space whale and the space cow, those things are in active development right now. And you can imagine with creatures that are this large, the question is, how do we loot them? How do we do those things? And that will be a very fun addition, and the things we're cooking up are very exciting. So you'll see creatures in 3.23, and it's going to be an amazing experience, adding true believability to the world. Happy hunting, good luck getting those horns, and try not to touch the pearls, they're a bit gross.
So what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that it takes a confluence of disciplines like art, design, animation, AI, and more to bring these creatures to life. That you don't actually have to hunt these fine fauna, but if you do, there are rewards to be had. And that Copions prefer the tundras and savannas they're used to, and may not behave well if you forcibly relocate them. Not that that has ever stopped any one of you. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for letting us share the process of game development with you, and we'll see you all here next week.
All right, Algared. That was different. And things like this that come along in the future, it's gonna change the game. It really is. Like, they're gonna feel lived in, and it's.
I still struggle at the thought that that is a creature that Microtech had designed and built because they wanted an apex predator on their planet.
Yeah.
People talk. People always bag out the Hurstons for being so evil, but
maybe they chain them up and use them as security.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like that's just.
Yeah.
But but those critters, they're gonna. I can see that's going to be an NPC character as well, just like the Copion. So I like the way they're developing these two types of the Boids and the NPC type critters, because it gives them that variation. It gives them that whole spectrum they can play with. The cattle, I imagine, will be a Boid.
I want to know more about the Boid specifically, because the one thing that kind of makes it, in my head, go between a Boid and an NPC is when the birds land. How do they know that they have to interact with the nav mesh to land? So that's what makes it really curious to me. So either they can change their states, or I don't know, or there's something I'm missing there that I can't see, and that's just me as a knowing what I know.
There's also another aspect that the birds play into. The fact that they're kind of a seagull, not a seagull, a pelican type animal, means they're not grain feeders. So what are they eating? Are they eating the fish? So that kind of, if you want them to be believable, you're going to need to have.
Well, there's probably grubs and stuff too.
Something that you're going to want to feast on as well. So maybe again, I'm just taking too much copium and
I'd also like to see some slightly different mannerisms. So, for example, we know that they had copiums in caves and the turbo pelicans in different biomes and different textures, but I'd like to have slightly different ways they attack you or react within a cave and outside a cave. And when I said before about how that pack mentality, as soon as you put that in a cave, you can't flank and stuff because it's all one-on-one. So that makes sense. But then as soon as you go outside, they need to act differently again. So again, tier 0, hopefully that all gets kind of updated.
Once they kind of pen you down, so they've stopped you, then they should kind of surround and just.
Well, can you imagine, like, we know they've got drag mechanics in the game for medical. Why can't they have one grab you and drag you? That'd be mad. Like, imagine being dragged by your foot and you're going,
Yep, and you're shooting it to try and take it out. And how many bullets does it take to take them out?
Imagine it in a multiplayer environment where Russell gets dragged out. You just go, Russell, and you're trying to save him because he's getting dragged away by his arms and legs. So I can see the gameplay. It's like you said, like it was a no-brainer when you were talking about the bird strikes and then talking about the like flying into the racetrack and stuff like that. Because I was thinking the same thing, just in a different. Like I just thought it was a given. It's not just how they make the world look. It's going to be literally how they interact with us is going to be the big thing.
And that I think is ultimately what makes or breaks the critters.
Yep.
The way they interact with us, the way they not only make the world feel alive, but the way in which we interact and they interact with us. And it's no good just having them be easily hunted. The bird, fine, I can see that. But, you do want them to have that to be a dangerous thing to hunt.
Yep. There is one more area that they probably should start out with as a baseline as well, and I don't know if they've already done this in the background, but my brain went to, all right, so they got one in the air, they got one on the ground.
One in the water.
Exactly. And I was just like, it's really obvious to me, so I'm wondering if they've done another one, but because water's kind of not up to, I don't think, we can't swim and stuff yet, so I reckon once they bring the swimming in, they'll probably introduce that as well.
And I think I was kind of going down that thought process as well, with the fact that the Marok bird is kind of a pelican, and so the second you say pelican, I automatically start to think water bird or coastal bird.
Can it land on the water? Was the thought I had.
Yeah. Can it land on the water? Can it fish? Can it? Will we see it? Going, scooping fish up and eating.
Does it limit it to the coastline? Things like that. Yeah.
Or the areas where there's a water, or along the rivers. Does it? So.
Well, Algared, based on the stuff we learned with the geologists in that point of view episodes, you could technically use the maps to define where they kind of congregate and hang out. So it's all possible. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'd expect be a boreal stalker. I would expect, given the size, given what it is, and its fur, that it would be one that lived in a higher altitude. But that could just be me being naive.
I was just going to say, it makes me wonder if the reason we kind of didn't see the space cow kind of come in first is because they probably want to put some fur on it. Being a cow, it's got a bit of hair. Not very long, but a little bit. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Maybe. I can see... I want to eventually be able to harvest the skins of things, because I could see there'd be
I can see old man Hurston wear one of these, walking around in his pimp suit, and a Copion print suit. I can see that, absolutely.
Marok skin pelts on their floors of 890s, and heads of a.
I don't know about anyone else.
Copium skins on the floors.
Is anyone in the comments hearing the Mr. Burns like my vest song? Because that's what I'm hearing. Because Algared wears vests all the time. Like my vest. You look it up. He's wearing made of real gorilla chest. Yep.
But I could see. I could see 890s decked out with going on safaris, and them decked out with Marok heads or Copium heads on the walls, or
the big game hunter mentality is what you're describing. Literally.
Pelts on the ground, the kitchen serving the Copium steaks.
The protesters, the
protesters getting all uppity. People serving space whale.
Copium caviar or the equivalent.
The whole caboodle. Yeah.
All right, then. What do you want to hear from people in the comments below, Algared? Is there anything you want to hear?
Looking forward to critters. Are you hoping that they? Do you have as much hopium and copium as we do? As to where they're going.
Yeah. I think the only other thing is there anything else that you can kind of add to that? Because I can start to see where they're starting, like a baseline, and then they're going to have to go out and have all little individual personalities and stuff like that. So I almost wonder, how they're doing the NPC system with the different personality combos for humans, are they doing a mini version of that or a version like that for creatures? I can't see why not. Use the same system, The
other thing that surprised me is they didn't do, as a Boyd, I would have thought those floating gas critters, that the waste would have been a perfect critter to start with. Totally alien.
I actually reckon they would remove the hovering stuff. I think that's why they've done, because it just looks too cheap, and I reckon they put it in because it was easy at the time. I got a massive feeling that thing will end up becoming like a land-based thing, so it'll morph into almost like a rat or something. Not a rat, but like an alien move along the ground thing is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I could also see that possibly being a food source for. Depending on where the Marok bird originates and where they originate, being a food source for each, or becoming a food source for certain creatures. So when I see the creatures come in, I want to be able to say, okay, this is what it eats. This is its ecosystem. And what's the food chain and how it develops and where it sits in the food chain.
Yeah, and I'll put this out to the questions in the comments too. Like, do you think this could see some stuff around farming at CitizenCon, and kind of like talking to what Algared's talking about there with looting, but also possibly into the biome and the profession of it as well, you know? So I'm wondering if, well, again, we've got base building type of coming. I can see that as a, you know, you line those two up. I can see that's not too far off if that's where they want to go. But you have to wait and see.
Well, here's another thought for the big companies like Hurston and Microtech and that.
Meatworks.
You're developing your planet, and you want that entertainment. You want that privilege of being able to go and hunt or do stuff. So do you start to, and this comes for Hurston's, do you start to worry about the ecosystem a little bit because it's impinging on your area of economy?
I think Algared is worried about his meatworks factory, or Hurston is, and Space Piece is coming along and protesting the processing of all the copium, and he's worried about that.
Absolutely, you know, that's why old man Hurston's a bit concerned about just the weapons testing everywhere on, and you know, yeah, absolutely.
All right, with that then, he's been Algared. Oh, wait. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and thank you everyone that went an extra mile on Patreon at the end of the video. All right, he's been Algared.
He's been Execute. And we're out of here. Take care.
See you, citizens.